Italians have begun casting their ballots in a vote that's expected to bring seismic change. Far-right candidate Giorgia Meloni is forecast to top the poll and become Italy's most right-wing leader since World War II and its first female prime minister. Polling stations opened this morning and voting will continue until about 11 p.m. local time. Italian politics have a reputation for instability, with 73 governments in the last 76 years. If Meloni wins, the European Union's third largest economy would be in the hands of a eurosceptic nationalist government.
She describes herself as a mother, Italian, Christian. Giorgia Meloni is reaching for power in Italy, promising to revive the country and put the interests of Italians first. On the campaign trail, the charismatic leader of the Brothers of Italy, a party with neo-fascist roots, took great pains to appear moderate. But the party's logo contains a tricolor flame, a symbol of the extreme right in Italy. And their hardline views on abortion, same-sex marriage and immigration from Africa and the Middle East are clear indications of the party's true platform. Have you seen the pictures of Ukrainian refugees? Women and children who are fleeing the war. Don't those images seem strange compared to the images of boats full of grown men that we have seen arriving here in recent years? When people run away from a war, you see women and children coming because the men are fighting. But if just men are arriving, then they can only be running away from war after leaving the women and children to fight. Meloni's supporters can't seem to get enough of such talk, but her popularity is also the result of a credibility crisis facing the parties in the previous government. The passion she has, the clarity, the simplicity, even when she tackles important issues. In Italy, we should welcome foreigners in need, but we need to think of ourselves first. Meloni has vowed to support Ukraine and NATO, and she says that she's pro-European. But she often views EU rules as an infringement of Italy's sovereignty. Her critics fear the right-wing populist will change the country and its values.
Fascism never has gone away. It's still here with us. It's just changing a little bit the face and new makeup, but it's still with us.
Our fear here is that we would go back in time, and instead of going forward in terms of rights, in terms of other type of progressive kind of mindset, we would go back to an era that we fear, we dread the most.
Despite such concerns, Giorgia Meloni has a good shot at becoming the country's next prime minister.
Our correspondent Giulia Saudelli is covering this election for us in Rome. Giulia, why are voters looking to Giorgia Meloni's party and other right-wing parties in this election?
Well, specifically referring to Giorgia Meloni and her party, they have not been in government for the last few years. And looking at how much dissatisfaction there is in Italy with a lot of the parties that have been in government until now, she has always been in opposition. She is seen as someone who can bring change and a new face that people can trust to maybe bring forward the reforms and the change that people really want. And on the other hand, Italy is traditionally quite a conservative country, and Giorgia Meloni has made a point, even though her party has a neo-fascist and post-fascist roots, to make herself into a moderate conservative, someone that even non-radical voters can support in the elections. That seems to be paying off within the Italian electorate.
You keep hearing this is a crucial election, and yet observers are predicting low voter turnout. Some Italians are even expected to actively boycott the election. Why is that?
Yeah, polls have shown that this could be the election with the highest number of people abstaining from voting since World War II. Now, we have seen officials' results come out now at 12 local time, so about an hour ago, and it looks like the voting, the number of voters is in line with the last election, so there could be surprises, but in general, there is a strong dissatisfaction with the political parties and with the political system in Italy. But I spoke to some voters earlier outside a polling station and asked them what they thought about the situation. Let's hear what they had to say.
I don't like what the right plans to do if they win. But most importantly, I don't think they're fit to govern.
I would like Meloni to prove that she is up for the challenge. We're living in difficult times. This is probably the hardest possible time for her to start. But surprises are always welcome.
Le sorprese non guastano mai.
I think most Italians are very aware that whoever they choose to be in government won't really change anything.
I hope young people will see an improvement. This is the point. We've managed more or less, but now it's really hard for our youth. I hope things change for the better.
Giulia, you surely know this vote is being watched with concern in Brussels. What have the candidates been saying about Italy's relationship with the EU, and what would a far-right populist victory mean for Europe?
Well, who concerns the EU specifically is Giorgia Meloni and her coalition. And she, who was formerly a eurosceptic, has positioned herself as being supportive and closer to the EU because she knows that without the EU's support, it's going to be hard for her to govern in a sensible way. But there are still concerns among the institutions and the leaders within the EU and neighboring countries. And one of the fears is that Italy will change its stance towards the EU and issues that are important within the Union. For example, if we look at Viktor Orban, the leader in Hungary, who has been criticized by the EU and EU member states for promoting illiberal values that go against the EU values, there's a fear that Italy will become a country that supports Hungary and that also maybe goes along the same illiberal path as that country.
That is our correspondent, Giulia Saldelli, in Rome. Many thanks as always, Giulia.